That's when I broke my neck in a very freak football accident. I was tackled from behind, but ended up breaking my C6 vertebrae and becoming quadriplegic when I was 17.
This is the Breaking Barriers podcast powered by S.O.A.R. I am here today with the one and only quad father, Mr. Brian P. Swift.
In January, the end of the month, I was turning 18. Think about it. That is like your get-free birthday. You're becoming a full-fledged adult back in the day. That's when I realized I'm breaking barriers. Either you're happy or you're going to break the family. In my mind, that's the way I felt. Didn't hit me till that night, but I just took on life and kept moving forward. Finished my education. I got out of the rehab after 3 months.
You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be just chilling, be kind of sitting in front of a television watching Matlock, letting life happen. You're not supposed to be running a business. You certainly weren't supposed to become an attorney. You certainly aren't supposed to be hosting a podcast. And when people see your story and hear your story, they're inspired by that. So I'm very curious as to what lights you up, what inspires you, what stories of others breaking barriers has fueled your tank as you spend so much time trying to fuel other people's tank.
I think it was just having that start of moving forward and that desire to want.
We are back. This is the Breaking Barriers podcast powered by S.O.A.R. I am here today with the one and only quad father, Mr. Brian P. Swift. Of course, my name is John Morris. I will be co-hosting this episode. We're so grateful and thankful for all the folks that have been subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing the content that we've been creating. We are on a mission right now to bring awareness to a community of 61 million people that need a helping hand. These folks have been breaking barriers for the majority of their life, but they could use a hand up. Brian P. Swift is here today and is the founder of Swift Outdoor Accessible Recreation, bringing joy, happiness to the disability community by getting them outside to do the things that the rest of us are capable of doing, like canoeing, hiking, riding a bike, driving a hot rod like the one that I see in the driveway here at Brian's home. Today we are going to talk about breaking barriers. That is, in fact, the name of the podcast. So we want to talk about how Brian has been instrumental in breaking barriers and leading from the front, and how so many people out there do the same. So first question, Brian, I'm really curious, tell us a little bit about your origin story and how you've kind of been breaking barriers since you were 17 years old.
Well, thank you, John. And breaking barriers is important because, let's face it, our country wouldn't be here if we didn't break barriers. Technology wouldn't be here if we didn't break barriers. But breaking it down to a personal level, breaking barriers started for me when I was 17. That's when I broke my neck in a very freak football accident because it wasn't a tough hit. I was tackled from behind, but ended up breaking my C6 vertebrae and becoming quadriplegic. And back in 1979, being a quad was like a Stephen King novel. They broke out the statistics of what a quadriplegic would be capable of, and it was very little. Your chances of going to college, your chances of working, your chances of having a family, chances of driving. I mean, your whole life came down to this book based on statistics. Now, I get it. That's all that they have to go on. And I was at one of the premier rehabilitation facilities. That being said, I had a father that refused to allow me to be that statistic, and a mother that was the faith and of motivating that movement forward. And it started when my dad told the therapist that he's not going to get an electric wheelchair. He will roll out of here or walk out of here. Now, that's not when it started. It started in mid-January. So I got hurt the day after Christmas, the 26th of December. In January, the end of the month, I was turning 18. 18, think about it. That is like your get-free birthday. You're becoming, a full-fledged adult back in the day. That being 18 set a different tempo for your life. Laying in a hospital, not being able to move my arms and feed myself and even push a wheelchair was not how I had planned it. So my dad came up to visit me for lunch, and he took off his overcoat and hung it up and sat at the table. Now, I don't remember what I said, but I know I was probably I was probably salty, thinking this is not how I planned my 18th birthday and thinking about what life was going to be for me. And after about 10 minutes of talking, he got up and he walked over, put his coat on, came back to the table, stood next to me and said, listen, if I come up here and you are not smiling, if you are not in good spirits, I'm going to leave. I'm not coming up here to see you this way. And he went on further to say, it is your responsibility to keep this family together. It is your responsibility to keep this family happy, because if you're smiling, we'll be smiling. This family will go the way you go. So that is your responsibility. He took off his coat and sat down. That was it. That's a lot to lay on somebody who just broke their neck.
You know what's interesting is that your father almost was asking you to give permission to them to inspire, manage, push, kind of bring you along mentally, but you had to be okay in order for that to happen. So it's an interesting situation because he was a very tough man, very traditional, right? Very Christian. We know the generation, the baby boomer generation, or even before that, right? There was nothing soft about these folks. But what's interesting about what you're saying is that, and I find this comment the most interesting, that essentially he was saying, hey, look, if you're smiling, then we're smiling.
Exactly. And you parents get it. Just think about this. We as parents are only as happy as our most miserable kid.
Wow. Isn't that the truth?
Right? I mean, think about it. If two of your kids are going along fine, but the third one's in a dump or, going down that rabbit hole, you're not feeling good. So we're only as happy as our most miserable kid.
We're all kind of empaths in that way. Like we kind of own it. Like I was watching a clip yesterday, and it was a boy that had cancer, and the boy had two siblings. And the father was essentially interviewing the son on this content piece. It was really interesting. And the father was essentially asking the son, like, why are you so happy, right? And the son's giving these amazing answers about how he's got support and he's got love and he's got God and all these different things. And then the father breaks down crying. And the son asks, why are you breaking down, Dad? And the father says, because I wish I was in your position. I wish I was the one who had cancer. I wish I could take that for you. So I think that's interesting because your father probably in his own way was feeling that and wanted to say that, but the way that it came out to you was, hey, look, we need you smiling because it's an indication that you are going to move forward, and we can't move forward and pull you along mentally, right? Unless you almost give us permission that you're in the right state of mind to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, back in that generation of people, and my dad, they didn't ask for permission for their kids. But I think he knew it was less permission and more of a directive as kind of being a man of the house, that they needed this for all of us. And I think the big reason was, one of the reasons, families got broken up and destroyed. Marriages are destroyed by what happened to me. It creates such a divide in a family. And we heard story after story. They went through counseling. It was just part of the process. And probably heard story after story of this creates such a chasm in a family structure that it destroys the structure. And my mom and dad would not allow that.
Yeah. So in business and sales, in negotiating, we've probably heard about the hard takeaway. It's kind of like you take something away when somebody wants it. You got to make them want it first. Otherwise, it doesn't hurt bad enough for them to then react and say, no. I'll come to the table. Like, let's find a compromise and let's move forward. So in negotiation, you kind of build enough value and then you take it away. It feels like the way you've described that, your father was almost taking it away from you.
Yeah, I mean, he was taking away, he took away the option of me not being good.
Yeah, he was making you come to him which was we're going to power through this.
Yeah, I mean, or either you're happy or you're going to break the family up.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's the way I felt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it didn't hit me till that night, but that was when that's when I realized I'm breaking barriers. And what my dad did with not letting me have an electric wheelchair, he was breaking barriers. I mean, and that's probably when that started. I didn't realize it, but that's when it started, and then from there on, I just took on life and kept moving forward. So, finished my education. I got out of the rehab after 3 months, went back to high school, graduated. That summer, it wasn't laying around. It wasn't sitting around because there was no sitting around at my house. Your bedroom was for sleeping. So there was no TVs. There was no stereo. You were out and busy. When I was on my feet, if you were in the house on a weekend, you were doing work. So, you realized you had to be out doing something, being proactive, playing sports, doing whatever. So, we built a garage full of ways for me to exercise. And it was, you were either doing therapy or that summer I started junior college. And 2 years later, I finished junior college. And in the meantime, every day would be some room for therapy. That was part of my journey on breaking barriers because that led me into going to school, then to college. I'm first generation college. So now I'm at St. Xavier University every day, getting up, getting dressed, getting in a bus to take me to school, which, wasn't the most exciting thing to have to do. Not the school part, but the rest of it. But I realized that was my way out. That was my way. Education, let's be honest, everybody who came to this country came here for a way out, right?
Yeah, sure.
So that was my way out of that quad life. So I moved on to a four-year university, and I wanted to drive. I wanted more independence. So we got hand controls in a car, and I learned how to drive, which again was not back then that statistic was not a big statistic of quads who were driving. One, because it was still so new back in the late 70s, early 80s. Two, it was expensive to put a van together. Now, I didn't have a van with a lift and all that because it was too expensive. We didn't have the money. But we did find a nice big car. We put hand controls in it, but it meant that whenever I came or went, somebody had to help get the wheelchair in. But it still was the next level of independence.
Yeah.
Right? It was the next level. So, breaking barriers from there just continued.
So there's a lot of ways to break barriers. We're talking today about Brian's methodology of doing that, but we would love to hear from you. So in the comments below, why don't you share some ways that you've broken barriers to inspire anyone who's checking out this episode, and certainly we could use inspiration as well. We'd love to hear from you as to how you've overcome some sort of adversity, whether it be mentally, physically, in your career, in your life, in your marriage, raising kids, whatever type of barrier that you've broken. We would love to hear about it. We'd also love for you to check out S.O.A.R.nonprofit.com. Again, that's www.soarnonprofit.com to see how you could potentially contribute to help other folks break barriers. So, Brian, that leads me to my next question. What has inspired you? Because you've spent a lot of your life, whether you know it or you don't know it, and I'm sure that you do, inspiring others. I've witnessed it. I've seen people come up to you or react to you. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be just chilling. You're supposed to be collecting disabilities. You're supposed to just be kind of sitting in front of a television watching Matlock and letting life happen, right? You're not supposed to be running a business. You certainly weren't supposed to become an attorney. You certainly aren't supposed to be hosting a podcast. And when people see your story and hear your story, they're inspired by that. So I'm very curious as to what lights you up, what inspires you, what stories of others breaking barriers has fueled your tank as you spend so much time trying to fuel other people's tank.
No, good question, John. I think it was just having that start of moving forward and that desire to want just what everybody else had normally. Being able to drive, getting an education. Now, don't forget, this was in the early 80s. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. We didn't have the luxury of now every community has a a way to pick you up in a wheelchair. We didn't have all these things we did now. So a lot of it was breaking those barriers down. And I believe that if you don't do it, that you can't become credible in trying to move your cause forward. So me going to college, I felt like I was representing the whole disability community.
Interesting. That's a big burden to wear, my friend.
And all of the perceptions of somebody in a wheelchair at a young age. I'm not talking about grandpa's in a wheelchair, grandma's in a wheelchair. I'm talking about a teenager in a wheelchair. All the perceptions I had to break. I had to break the perceptions of, that person who's in a wheelchair, who gets pushed to their class, who doesn't have maybe a life outside of school, or isn't socially apt, or can't handle a conversation. So I did everything in my power just to be me, because I was that guy that, trapped in a wheelchair that loved going out socially, loved going to ball games, still played, my friends played softball. I'm like, well, put me at first base.
Yeah.
I can try to catch the ball, put a big mitt on me, put me on first base, and we'll play like this. If the ball hits me or my wheelchair, you're out. Even if I don't catch it. So you know what? I didn't give a shit. I wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
And that led to playing wheelchair sports. Why I missed competing. So I played wheelchair quad rugby, which is basically hockey basketball on a basketball court, and it's 6 people on a team, and you play with a volleyball, and you've got to get the ball past an end line where 2 cones were. So just imagine all in defense was just stopping the guy with the ball, however you could. So it was bumper car wheelchair rugby, and I loved it. But I loved the competition. I loved being that guy that did something more. So when you're having a conversation with people, I'm finishing up college and I play wheelchair sports. I didn't know there was quad rugby. Yeah, and I swam for Marion Joy Rab. You can swim? Well, of course I could swim. So all those things I did, I felt I was representing a gigantic community of disabled people, not just being a light for them, but helping them shine the light on themselves and understand that they are capable.
Now, certainly you were not playing these sports by yourself, so there's other folks that were in wheelchairs as well. Absolutely. There's other folks that are doing some brilliant, amazing things. Again, we hope that you're watching this and you're saying, aha, I know that moment. Aha, yes, I've had that feeling. And that you'll join this community and subscribe to the channel, maybe reach out to us and see how you can contribute your time, talent, or treasure. Because folks that break barriers do have a unique quality. And that unique quality is kind of a refuse to lose attitude, right? And I think that applies to anything. So I'm curious, when you were playing these rugby sports and doing some of these other things, you were surrounded by people that were doing the same thing. They were putting the same effort for it. Tell us about some of the folks in that community that you really tip your cap to, that maybe inspired you and they cleared a path for you, and then you cleared a path for them, and you guys kind of just stacked wins together, right?
Quads are a rugged breed. They are a different breed. There is not much that you can say to bother a quadriplegic. Most that I grew up with, they just were titanium plus 10 mentally. It's a unique breed of people because I think we all figured out how to keep things in perspective. Now, here I am going to play quad rugby thinking, I'm in pretty good shape. I work, and then you see some of these guys and they're whizzing
jacked
around
Yeah.
and they're flying and they're throwing a ball. And I'm figuring out how the heck was he able to throw the ball like that with with not having hand function and whatnot. And then you see people that I'm like, God bless that dude, man. He can barely push and whatever, but he is out there giving it 200%. And man, I respect that and I admire that. And I know what it takes to just do it. So I was around people that drove me and people that inspired me on both ends. And then you had the able-bodied people, because we were sponsored by Northwestern Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, one of the biggest and premier rehabilitation facilities. And believe it or not, we traveled. So, our rugby games were in Canada, Texas, North Dakota, Minnesota. You want to see something hilarious, look at 10 rugby players getting on one plane.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man, you
man.
want to see the nerves and breakdown of a crew, and it just great memories. But every one of them was out there breaking barriers, not not just for others, but for themselves. Because I can't break down barriers for you if I haven't done it for me. And I took that attitude then, through school, into law school. I mean, just think about it. How many people, and I'll throw this out there, think about it. You go out on every day, for the most part, store, work, shopping, dinner. How many people in their 20s, 30s, 40s do you see in a wheelchair? So if you think about this was 45 years ago, you can imagine. I mean, I was like a lone wolf out there.
Yeah, I think oftentimes folks in a wheelchair, you're talking about going to a grocery store or whatever it might be, are left at home, right? They're not running errands. It sounds like you wanted to be part of that situation where you want to have as normal of a life as you could. So you wanted to go and get involved.
And we didn't have relationships and get married. My last girlfriend I dated when I was in my late teens for 3.5 years. There was talk of marriage. That didn't work out. But I knew that I wanted to have a family and wanted to have all the things that everybody else had. And I was blessed to have met a young girl, because back then she was only 19, and we have been married for 36 years.
It's amazing.
36 years. And she is my primary caregiver. But I also knew that I had a responsibility not to wear her out.
Yeah.
And I had to do my job as a man of the house. So, I had to bring in an income. I had to get up with a smile. I had to work through the pain. I was the man of the house. And then when it came time to having kids, we found out, we couldn't have kids. So I wanted a family, so we adopted. And we have 3 adopted children, one from Korea, one from China, and the other from the east side of the city. And I don't have 3 adopted children. I have 3 gifts from God that were born in our hearts that are absolutely amazing. And now I had to be an example for my kids.
Brian, is it tough for you to be empathetic? I don't like the word sympathetic because I think sympathy is a terrible thing, if I'm being honest. I think it allows entitlement and so on. But I think empathy is a very powerful thing because empathy comes with motivation. It comes with lift. Sympathy is just like, oh, it's okay. Empathy is like, hey, I feel bad for you, man, but let's get rolling here. Is it tough, however, for you in the position that you've lived your life in, the majority of your life, to be looking at the state of the world and some of the things that are going on and to remain empathetic, to be compassionate towards it? Because there are able-bodied people out there that seem to allow a lot of obstacles, self-created in many ways, to get in their way and keep them from being able to live an enriched life like you have. So what would you say to those folks? Maybe not in a controversial way, but in a way that maybe your father would have spoken to you.
Wow, good question. I am not very sympathetic, and I probably do struggle with empathy towards certain people because I know how good I feel when I accomplish things and the confidence it's built in me. And you don't get confidence and you don't get that good feeling of accomplishment. Maybe even I'll go as far as a feeling of peace, which is even better than happiness when you do things. So when you allow yourself to be taken care of or not do the things you're capable of doing. Now, I know some people might say, well, how do you know what they're capable of doing? I'm not omnipotent and don't know for sure. But when I see somebody park in a handicap spot and walk into the mall and walk for 2 hours, my guess is they probably didn't need the handicap spot or other situations. So one of the biggest things I would say is the minute you stop thinking about what people can do for you and start thinking about what you can do for others, your life changes. You stop accepting the empathy, the sympathy, and stop making excuses, because all it is a victim mentality.
Yeah.
I'm a victim. Who's not a victim? Everybody's a victim.
Yeah.
Everybody's had problems, issues. Just because you're walking doesn't mean your life's perfect.
Yeah.
And I say that to a lot of people in wheelchairs. Do you think if you're walking, you'd be any happier? My guess is you'd still be a miserable person, because you're just a miserable person. The wheelchair doesn't make it easier, but if you were walking, you'd be miserable because you're miserable. Your mindset's horrible. You're a victim. You've got a victim mentality. Until that changes, you lack faith, you lack confidence, and all those things are things that you and only you can build. And that's why after 25 years of corporate, I went into coaching so I could help people build confidence, build that wall of feeling the blocks of accomplishment, confidence, to build that wall so that they don't have a victim mentality. My mom said, when I got hurt, why doesn't matter. Now what?
Yeah.
It's about now what? Okay, you broke your neck, now what? Well, now what left me with choices.
Yeah.
And they helped me make better choices. I made better choices, which led to a better outcome.
So here's an interesting thought. No matter what your circumstances, the first barrier you have to break is the victim mindset.
Absolutely.
That's the first barrier you have to break. As we've talked about on previous podcasts, and I'm certainly completely open and willing to talk about it. I'm kind of an open book because I believe that truth sets you free. I do have ups and downs and deal with mental disorders and anxiety and these different things. One of the challenges with that is it makes you very selfish. When you're depressed or have anxiety, you become very self-absorbed because you're constantly in your feelings. You're constantly trying to figure out why you feel a certain way. And in many cases, you're trying to create that feeling to be even worse because you got to feed that beast, baby, and you want to be even more depressed and be even more anxious because it's just this vicious spiral that you get into, but it makes you ultra selfish. And when you're selfish, you're a victim. And you can't, if you're stuck in that, you're stuck in the ability to break that barrier. I would imagine on the physical side, it's very similar. When you're in a wheelchair, one of the most difficult challenges would be to get out of self and get into give.
Yes.
And how do you do that? How do you break that barrier? Because I have a feeling that if we have a community of people listening to this that are physically disabled, and my God, I hope you're listening to this and you get some inspiration out of it and you tell 5 friends. But I want you to talk to those folks because I'm sure they understand exactly what we're talking about. You do find yourself very caught up in yourself.
You do, because you can't even take care of yourself. So I can't even take care of myself. How could I be of value to somebody else? And you start to go through that type of thinking, which is legit.
It's legit, sure.
I mean, I can't do all the things that I'd like to do for myself. For a hobby, I build live edge tables. Now, I could sand them and I could even use certain power tools, but at some point, I do need certain help. Where does it start? What do you do? Everybody has something to offer, period. Don't care what kind of condition. I learned this in quad rugby when I found somebody who was worse than me that was running a real estate company. This guy was in an electric chair, a sip and puff, and he was a real estate broker. How the heck was he able to be a real estate broker? And then I saw another guy who opened up his own graphics company who was disabled. And then I saw somebody else doing something, and I'm like, well, it's possible.
So you're saying you kind of just got to open your eyes and look around. Like, we get so caught in ourselves that maybe we don't see the world around us and recognize that there are other people that have been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, and have already overcome that. And it sounds like you found some peace and inspiration in seeing those folks do that, and you said, well, why not me then?
Absolutely. Here's the bottom line. If you have time, and every person with a disability has time.
Well, it's the one thing we all control in life anyways. Time is the...
have. People with disabilities have nothing but time. You have something to offer somebody. It might just be an ear. It might be advice. What have you learned? I mean, and nowadays you could go get an education without leaving your living room.
Go on YouTube.
I mean, I didn't have that luxury. There is no reason that most people with disabilities should not have some type of gig, work, something that they are diving into that is bigger than them. And I'm going to tell you, once you do something that involves something outside of you, that you have no expectations to receive something back, you enter another world of life. And this isn't for people with disabilities. This is for able-bodied people. And I learned this in one of the other things that I always wanted to do, that I said I was going to do. Now that I couldn't play sports, I wanted to coach sports. So here I am, about 7 blocks from where my grammar school practices football. When I went to, where I went to grammar school. And for therapy, I'd roll up there in my wheelchair and watch practice because it's where I played. I loved the game. And after a while, said hello to the coaches, told them, hey, I used to play here at St. Albert the Great. After a while, they got to know me. The following year, I saw them out there and I didn't see as many. I'm like, do you need help? Sure. So all of a sudden, I'm coaching at the grammar school I'm at. And I know it might seem odd, but 3 years later, I'm the head coach of the 7th grade team. And it was funny watching parents come out to meet their coach, kids coach, and he's a guy in a wheelchair, right? And the last thing I wanted to tell him was I got hurt playing football, but
yeah, your kid will be fine though.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I got hurt playing football at a park without equipment, and it was a freak thing. So I had no qualms about loving the sport and being a part of it. And now I'm coaching players, and I had to learn because I couldn't physically show them how to get into a good stance, and I couldn't physically show them how their footwork should be when dropping back as a quarterback. I really had to learn how to be so descriptive that I really had to understand the whys. And we're great at telling somebody, like when your kid's playing ball and he's up to bat, just hit the ball.
Oh, my God.
No shit, Dad.
I want to wring that guy's neck.
What do you think I'm up here to do?
Have you ever stood on a mound and you can't throw a strike? You know how lonely that is? You know how difficult that is? And then you got moms and dads in the stands going, just throw strikes.
Just throw it over
I'm trying to throw strikes, you idiot. My God.
Just throw it over the plate.
Oh, my God.
Let them hit it.
Yeah.
I think I was guilty of 1 or 2 of those.
And by the way, when you do throw one over the plate, you probably throw it right down the middle and it sails over your head and then over the center fielder's head too. So, but it's not great advice.
I had to learn how to be so descriptive and explain the whys. And when you explain why to a kid, they accept it more.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you to do this not because I was great at it or this is my way. When I tell you why your hand's too far out and teach you about leverage and teach you, just about why your body needs to be in this position, all of a sudden the light goes on way quicker. I can coach somebody and teach them way quicker because I'm telling them the whys. I'm not just telling them to do it without why. And that's how I had to if I wanted to be a good coach. And my goal was to make players better, have fun. You better have fun. And again, here I am, a coach on a field that didn't belong. I mean, not because of my lack of knowledge, but how many football coaches do you see in wheelchairs? Actually, I went on and coached at St. Lawrence High School football. And I remember being on the sidelines before the game and the ref coming over and saying, no, you can't be on the sidelines. It also happened twice to me. And I said, well, I'm one of the coaches. Oh. It happened in basketball.
How does shoe taste?
Yeah, it happened in basketball at a high school. I also coached high school basketball.
Yeah.
My other love.
You're not supposed to do any of these things, Brian.
No. Well, how could a guy in a wheelchair teach somebody how to shoot a ball?
Yeah.
How can a guy in a wheelchair teach a guy how to throw a pass when I can't even hold the ball?
Yeah.
So I'm in high school and I'm coaching a sophomore basketball game, and it was pregame, and one of the things I did is when my players shot free throws, I would roll up right next to them or near them and be distracting because they had to get used to that.
Yeah, mental state.
Well, I think a ref saw me roll around the floor a little bit and probably wondered, maybe he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Maybe he's special. What do I do? And I rolled over by the bench and he's like, I'm sorry, sir, but you can't be this close to the floor. I'm like, well, I'm one of the coaches. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you need to, I go, listen, I've done this for years. I understand your worry if a player's coming down. Trust me, I don't want to get hit and I don't want to hurt a player. But I did this for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to break barriers out there. And the biggest barrier I think I broke was the joy of hearing back from players 5, 10, 20 years later.
Oh, gosh, I'm sure.
That were like, Swifty, Coach Swift, you were like, I learned so much from you.
Yeah.
Parents that came back after the year that you knew were like, ugh, like,
this is going to be a disaster.
This is going to be a disaster. Yeah, absolutely. That were like, we had a great experience. Absolutely wonderful experience.
I tell you what, that probably helped them break a mental barrier on a whole community of people. That it probably helped break the barrier of the stigma that, folks like me that have all their the facilities, I guess you would say, right? Look at folks in wheelchairs or with a disability in a different way. I mean, it's kind of natural. Like, we can't get mad. You can't get mad at me necessarily for looking at you a certain way until I have an experience. I get to know you. I get to understand. I get to see how you've taken some sort of adversity and you've turned it into such a positive. There is that barrier that has to be broken for us as well. It goes back to my thought process of you and your father and that conversation. That was a breaking of the barrier. Like I said, he's never dealt with this before, and he didn't know how to deal with it. And in order for him to deal with it the right way, he had to know that you were okay with him dealing with it that way, that you were going to smile through this. And so that's kind of a microcosm of the scale of how people look at folks and go, well, you're not supposed to coach, but then you coach and they come back 5 years later and they're like, that was the greatest experience ever. That's a barrier broken right there.
I mean, I get still invited to these kids that I coach now. They're in their 40s. Some are in their 50s. I get invited to birthday parties for them. I get invited to a wedding of one of the guys numerous years ago. Coach, I'd like you to come to my wedding. It's so rewarding to be that example. But in being that example, was not easy.
Yeah.
I had to be the first one to practice.
Sure.
I was a head coach. I had to have my crap together. I was the last one to leave that field. Why? Because that was my responsibility. Didn't matter if I was in a wheelchair. I had to make sure that the last kid got picked up.
Yeah.
And if you've ever coached, you realize there's some parents out there that aren't really
late.
timely.
Yeah.
And I am not a paid babysitter. Right? I'm not a paid babysitter, and that was I did not leave the field till every kid was gone.
So here's the thing, though, right? What you just said was you had to act and behave like any coach would.
Absolutely, because I was a coach.
That's it.
I wasn't a coach in a wheelchair.
No, you're the coach.
I was a coach.
You're the coach. All right, so you're a Swiftie. I'm a softie. We know that I'm into content creation. In order to be a content creator, it's probably a good idea to understand your craft. So I spend a lot of my time from 9:30 at night till midnight in the scroll. And I tend to find things that inspire me. I don't know what it is, but I like to be moved by people. So to this point, I see this post, and man, oh man, I probably still have a knot in my throat the size of a Granny Smith apple. I mean, it was amazing. So it's a person that most likely had cerebral palsy, because I could tell by there was a little bit of a shake, in this special wheelchair. The wheelchair had huge wheels on it, almost like picture like one of those boats that you would pedal. And it's got like the huge wheels that would turn. Sure. And it's a gentleman behind this person in the wheelchair with the huge wheels that's pushing him out into the ocean. And then there's somebody that's holding the foot of it. And they're out about 6 feet into the ocean so that the wave is breaking on this young man. And the joy that is coming out of this young man. I mean, he is laughing hysterically, and I mean, he's making all these noises. He's just the joy that is pouring out of him. And the two gentlemen helping were just lit up by this because they saw the impact that they were having. And this was something that this person with most likely cerebral palsy was not supposed to be doing. Now, you say through your organization, S.O.A.R, that's BS. Because more people should be having that experience.
Absolutely.
And that is what you're trying to do with Swift Outdoor Accessible Recreation, is to break that barrier, that stigma, and to provide people with that type of experience. I'm telling you right now, I'll try and find the clip, maybe put it in the description if you want the waterworks to come down. But I could have run through a wall after that. It was so inspiring. So tell us some stories of like how you've done that for other people and how your organization is helping to break that stigma and break those barriers.
So what you saw was a beach chair.
Yeah.
And more...
Yeah, it was like a ramp. And like it was like a board, and it had like the curve where his tushy was, but
right. And so they make different kinds of beach chairs with big beach tires. Some it's a 3-wheeler, 2 big wheels in back, 1 in front. And it's to get somebody, because a wheelchair, like my wheelchair,
you just sink in, right?
Just sinks in.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more of these out there, and we're trying to. There's so many areas we could affect. I could spend all day reaching out to these hotels and grand facilities along the ocean to ask them simple things like, do you have a beach chair? You need to get a beach chair because an elderly person might need it.
Well, on
right?
top of that, you open up the market. Because how many families don't go on vacation to a beach because they have a disabled child or a disabled sibling or whatever, or wife or husband, so they just elect to not go to a beach. Therefore, they're not bringing their 5-person family to your hotel because you have not created the ultimate brand experience that's inclusive to folks that are disabled in that manner. That family was so inspired by that, they're going to go on vacation there every year if they got that from the hotel.
Absolutely. So back to what have we done? We try to provide things like that, beach chairs. I've got a story very similar where they wanted, it was somewhat of a beach chair. I don't know the name of it, but we helped them get it. And what they did and what their son wanted, who had MS, was they brought him to a skate park. And this dad has a kid in this 3-wheel, big, it almost was very similar to what you saw, on the beach. And he is running up the mountains and the sides of, and I don't know what they call that in a skateboard park, but, going up the sides and down.
Yeah.
This kid's getting airborne. The dad's struggling to keep hold of him. But this kid, he is ear to ear smiling.
Oh my gosh.
His arms are up in the air showing how happy he is. And dad, you could tell, is huffing and puffing because he doesn't want to stop. Because he's never seen, I'm sure, his son experience this. But he is up the sides, down the sides, going over the top. You can see dad struggling because this kid's airborne now, coming over the top. That's priceless. That's priceless.
Yeah.
Providing another story I remember was here locally, a kid who had, I think, cerebral palsy, wanted to get out to play with his siblings in the winter. In your chair, you can get out. I could roll around with some snow on the ground. Electric wheelchair, obviously, could go almost anywhere. But he wanted to get out and really, the kids would slide and, get on the ice. So there's a company that makes skis for your front of your wheels.
Oh my gosh.
So they attach to your 2 front wheels, and they gave us a video of him for the first time being out. They must have lived either near a park or whatever at the park, and the kids, just his family and other kids, just spinning him and pushing him, and he would just slide across. And I mean, you can't put a price on that.
You got to send me that video.
That's just amazing. This past year, we got out several veterans who are in wheelchairs with their sons and they got their first deer. Now, not everybody's a hunter, but understand something. You know, hunting responsibility is really a service you're doing. You're thinning the herd. You know, you're making sure that the herd doesn't get too big and animals
reducing
starve.
car
You're
accidents.
reducing car accidents mightily. And most of the people I know eat the meat. So, you know, you're hunting for the right reasons. But to see the joy, to feel the joy would be, you know, similar like when you see your kid hit his first home run, or you see your kid make a first touchdown, or you see your daughter, you know, make her first basket, or what, you know, in volleyball, spiking the ball. When you see that and you get that, like, yep, that's my girl. You can't put a price on that feeling. And to see this, and we got a video of a father who's a disabled vet being able to take his son out, and he got his first deer. I mean, how do you put a price on that? Now, this is something that a lot of people do without any effort, but there's a cost involved. And there's not just a cost involved. I could buy somebody a crossbow and buy them a target, but now where do they go to hunt?
Yeah,
is it accessible? Is
yeah.
it? So, you know, that's why we do collaborate with a lot of organizations that do these things to provide these opportunities.
Well, how do they get them up in a deer stand? Like, is that possible?
Ground blind. You just hunt from the ground.
It's a ground, okay.
Yeah, it's from a ground blind. I've gotten, if you were to look around my background, I've gotten numerous deer, and I've gone out boar hunting with my sons.
Oh my gosh.
Deer hunting, pheasant hunting. I love the outdoors. Being outdoors is where we heal. I'm sorry to say that it's not through the pills. It's not through smoking. It is getting out and being one with nature and understanding that releases certain chemicals in our body, that releases a certain feeling that we have. That gentleman who got, and his son who went out, have this feeling they could not get through medication or any other way. Now I hope they seek a better. Now I want more.
Yeah.
Want more. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. Want more. Go do something more then. That's fine. That's the way life should be lived.
All right. That being said, Brian, what is the next barrier that you are going to break?
There's so many stigmas on people with disabilities. It's not easy to do the things you want. And short story. So I graduated from college, graduated from law school. I go to get my first job at a major insurance company. You would know the name if I told you, but I'm not going to. And they hire me. They do make me an offer, but this is an insurance company now. They would not give me benefits. No benefits. So I politely rejected it, being like, you got to be shitting me. I didn't make a big deal about it. Some people would have. Oh, you should have sued them. Oh, you should have. Yeah, I didn't have time for that. I wanted to move forward. But this is a major insurance company, and you would know the name of it.
Well, we're not going to get any sponsors for this podcast from insurance companies because what a racket.
Yeah, let's save that for another time. But, you know, that stigma of the value of somebody in a wheelchair, because I want to talk about why the disability community should matter to your corporation and your business. And I want to break that stigma of why a person in a wheelchair, the right person, the person that fits the spot. I'm not talking about DEI. I'm not a DEI fan. I'm a fan of, do I fit the qualifications? Do I show up? Do I do what I'm asked to do? Do I outperform even maybe? Hire that person. Because there are 61 million adults in the United States that have some form of a disability. That's 20% of the population. That other 80% is one step away from being part of that group. Let's not forget that.
Boy, ain't that the truth.
It's true. So just to throw out some things, and stories work better than statistics, but sometimes you need them to prove a point.
Drop it.
The disability community has over $490 billion in disposable income. They matter to every business out there. We have massive income, and I'm not saying they all make a lot of money, but there is money that we spend at different businesses and corporations. We are of value. If you allow us to get in, if you give us a platform, when you start to think about the money out there in the disability community, our value is huge, not just as an employee, but also as a community.
Well, how is it huge as an employee? I can think of a couple ways. Like, first off, if I was, let's say, in a sales role, right, and I'm doing everything I can, and the gentleman or lady next to me is disabled and is beating me by 10, 15 percentage points as it relates to budget, and just sounds amazing on the phone, and just is making it happen. I would imagine from a culture standpoint, that would really put leadership in a power position to be able to say, hey, look at this amazing human that is overcoming all odds, overcoming adversity, is the first one in, last one out, is putting up big numbers. Like, kind of what is your excuse? It kind of takes a lot of that away. So I would imagine from a culture standpoint, it kind of creates some ammunition to inspire and motivate. I would think that that it's a great story for the brand. We're all trying to create attention and awareness in this sea of noise that is happening. We see logo after logo after logo. But really what inspires us, I think, to want to work with a brand is what they're doing as it relates to corporate responsibility. What kind of a feeling are they creating? What are they doing beyond their products and services? I mean, to hire somebody that has a disability, not because they have a disability, but because they have the skill set and the talent, and to be able to put them, maybe create some sort of a stage to show that to the world, I think is very powerful.
Absolutely. And just one more stat, because I think it's important, why hiring somebody with a disability that can do the job matters is companies and corporations that hire people that can do the job that have a disability have a 28% higher revenue and 30% higher profit margin. Why that is, I'm not an economist. I don't know the rhyme and reason under that, but we all know right now that big companies, medium companies, little companies, their leaderships are a bit under attack for the massive income that the executives make.
Yes.
I mean, they are. I mean, it's, they're under, I don't want to say under attack, maybe under scrutiny. And I'm not saying they shouldn't make a very good living. That's what this country's built on. But how do they offset that with not being greedy, not being, that man on a pedestal sitting in the chair with the golden, hat on and watching everybody work hard. Now, I know a lot of people feel that's the way it is at a lot of companies, but how do you bridge that? Well, you do things to show that you are about something bigger than you.
Yeah, purpose.
You're bigger than you. How do I do that? Well, you do certain things for the people that are working for you, right? You accommodate people that need certain accommodations that have earned it. You go out and you sponsor different events. You go out and in your philanthropic mindset and you help companies that need help, support nonprofits. You hire people, as you stated, John, to show that, we're not about a specific person. We're here to work with everybody and anybody. It just doesn't matter. And if you think about it, it really doesn't matter. I don't care how tall you are, short you are, big you are, color you are, nationality, creed. If you do the job, I'm your best friend. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to do the job, I'm there helping you to get better at doing the job. I don't care if you're sitting, riding, wiggling, whatever that situation may be, I'll put you on my team. I know 2 people with disabilities. I'd be the first guy to hire them if I had a business.
Brian, do you think the challenge with hiring somebody with a disability and putting them in a role is if they don't perform, you have to fire them? And if you fire them, then it looks really, really bad because how dare you just fire a disabled person?
No.
So do you think that maybe there's something also within the community where the community has to go, hey, look, if we're going to be given a shot, we can't retaliate when we don't perform?
No, I think that's easily solved. There's absolutely no issue with that. And if you're any good at your job, it's not an issue. As an employee, there's nobody that is an employee, whether you're a manager or a worker bee or whatever your status is, that should ever be surprised.
Oh, I love that thought.
By somebody in that business or corporate.
You should never be surprised if you're promoted or terminated. It should never be a surprise because there was communication leading up to both.
Exactly. Same thing as an athlete. You should not be surprised why you're not getting as much time. That should be communicated, and I do think most people inside know why.
Mm-hmm.
But if I, being eventually led into management, kept impeccable records on the behavior of people that weren't doing their job. I mean, one, we had to, that weren't making the amount of sales, that weren't making the amount of renewals, that weren't bringing in new business, people that showed up on time, people that left late. You had to. And you had to document that. And after certain times, I brought everybody in. Everybody came into my office numerous times through the year to sit down and say, hey, listen, I know you're struggling, but man, you're here every day. You stay late, and I'm here for you. I know you're not where you want to be, but what can I do to serve you so you can get better? Do you want to go over your planning? Do you want to role play? You want me to listen to your calls? You want me to go out with you on a call? I had those conversations with every person. Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. Hey, listen, can you do this for me and whatever? Or, hey, you're struggling. Did you ever think, you get in late a lot. Looking over your planning that you brought in, you're not planned well. You make so many less calls than everybody else. If you step this up, you'll see better results.
So it sounds like somebody
there should be communication all the time. So if that person with a disability needs to be terminated, it's not a surprise to them. And as a corporation, if you document everything like you should be, you should not be worried.
Yeah, well, there you have it. And it to your point, like you were in a management role as somebody who was disabled, and you were managing people to their process, to procedure, to help them to achieve the maximum level of their desire, their want, their goal, and to meet or exceed the requirement of the company. So it shouldn't be any different for somebody who has all their facilities managing somebody who's disabled. It's the same communication.
Exactly.
This is what breaking the barrier stands for, is breaking the stigma of I need to treat somebody better or worse because of. That's not how it works.
It's just your kids.
Yeah,
you treat every kid.
Hold the line.
Right. You treat every kid differently, but you hold them all to the same
system. So you manage people to who that person is and what's going to get the most out of them. You can't manage every single person the same way.
No.
So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you manage each individual to their strengths and weaknesses, but you manage the system exactly the same way across the board.
Absolutely. Being that standard, just like your kids. You know what? I didn't give any one of my kids a later curfew than the other.
Yeah.
And a daughter and boys, I mean, what do I say? You have less of a curfew because you're a girl? No, I held them all to the same curfew because that was my standard, period. I wasn't here. I don't care if you like it or not. This is why, and this is the way it's going to be done, period. So, and let's go back to breaking barriers. I sold on the phone. I managed telephone crews. The next promotion for me was to manage premise crews, people that actually went out.
We call them outside sales.
Yeah. Outside sales professionals. I got passed up. Should never happen. Had another good year on the phone. crushed it. One President's Club. I got passed up. That was the next stop. That was the next promotion for me. Why? Well, you never did outside sales. You're right. I never have. What's different about it? It's the same sales.
Yeah.
It's the same exact. Well, and outside sales people dealt with more professionals. So they dealt with doctors, dentists, lawyers, offices that were probably accessible. Well, how are you going to go out with your people? Well, we had to go out so often, and I made my pitch, which blew their excuse away, obviously. Finally, I said, here's the bottom line. You give me the worst sales team in the company, outside sales team. If I don't bring them into the top 10, there were 36 teams, different sales teams. If I don't bring them into the top 10, I'll quit. You don't have to worry about me then. And I was dished the 36th team that had been 36 for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
On top of it, I was working 10 minutes from my house. This team was an hour from my house. And I gladly took it. I think we finished number 6 in the company that year.
Amazing.
Give me the opportunity. It's all I asked for.
Yeah.
Give me the opportunity I earned. Give me the opportunity, and I will. And they should have known better. Shame on you guys. You know that anything that's been thrown at me, I worked for the company almost 20 years. You should have known that there's nothing that stopped me. I mean, for the most part, that I would find a way to turn teams around, find a way to turn, groups of leaders around. You put me in training. They gave me one of the hardest tasks to hire 60 people, start a new, it was a brand new crew, never had before in a company, to deal with certain levels of accounts. And my challenge was to interview and hire 60 sales professionals in a very short time, and then train them, and then put them out to the crew. So, they dealt me my own hand, which was fine. So when I was in training, I hired with another gentleman. There were 2 of us. We interviewed and hired 60 sales professionals. Then we trained 60 sales professionals. And then the promotion from training was, great, you get 30 of them as a crew, and blah, blah, blah. I took those 30. We rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just split up, randomly, but I took 30 and rocked. My buddy took 30 and rocked. So it was, perfect that, listen, obviously I hired these people. I trained them. Know what a good test is to see how good you were? Now take them, put them in the field, and let's see what you can do.
Well, I think we've certainly learned that it's not a good idea to challenge the Quadfather. That is Brian P. Swift. Brian, before we have final thoughts here, what's upcoming on the Breaking Barriers podcast?
Oh boy, there's quite a bit to talk about. We are going to start to bring in guests. I really want to do
exciting.
that. I like to see insights from so many great people out there that are, I don't think maybe their goal was to break barriers, but they're doing it, whether it be in their own lives. And then they've realized that when you do something for a bigger group, for something outside of you, that feeling you get. And you know what? Rising tides, what does it do? If I make everybody around me better, what happens to me? I get better. Rising tides lifts all ships. Stop worrying about your drop of the water. Think about the whole tide. And I want to bring in guests. My goal, I'm really planning hard for this upcoming year, 26. We have so much that we want to do. We have added another goal and purpose to S.O.A.R, which is we want to provide service dogs to people who need service dogs.
Love it.
That is so critical. I've had 2 service dogs. I've been without for 3 years. I'm talking legit service dogs. not my cushy, I feel better bringing my puppy. I'm talking dogs that are trained to do unbelievable things.
Open doors. And
Oh my gosh. Get on the ground when somebody's having a seizure and lay under them so they're not banging their head on the floor. They realize that that person's having a bad day. They're up on the couch with them. I could go on, but we have added a program that needs funding. And that is our drive to help people get service dogs, because it's not a cheap endeavor. They're not always free. Most of the times, your good organizations, there's a massive cost to the breeding, to the raising, because you usually don't get them until they're almost 2 years old. And they're trained for your specific needs, which means you've got to go to a facility and spend weeks there working with the dog. That's on your dime. So just even if we could cover those costs to help them travel, to help them get that dog, that is on our 26 list of new programs. With that, obviously, comes more responsibility internally, of huge financial responsibility, that we don't have a coffer of $1 million or $500,000 sitting somewhere. That would be nice when you look at the cost of everything that is needed for somebody with a disability to try to live and thrive in this world.
and contribute.
Absolutely.
So if this episode has touched your heart, if it's entertained you, inspired you, and informed you, and you'd like to get involved, it's very simple. You can go to www.soarnonprofit.com, and you can check out that page, and you can find information on how to get in contact with Brian. If you want to be a guest, if you're especially in the Chicagoland area, or you're willing to travel into the Chicagoland area, and you want to tell us about how you've broken barriers because you want to inspire others and you want to draw attention to maybe your organization, to maybe your brand, a book you're writing, an organization you represent, we would love to hear from you, so maybe just drop something in the comments below and let us know. Drop your email in there. We'll reach out to you, and we'll have you on the episode to tell your story. Again, this is the Breaking Barriers podcast powered by S.O.A.R. That is Brian P. Swift. He is the Quad Father, and it looks like he wants to say one more thing. What do you got to say, Brian?
I do. Let's go beyond that. If there's any way I could serve you, disability or not, please reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation. I would love to hear how I could serve you in any way possible. And this is not just about people with disabilities. The people I coach and help and mentor mostly are able-bodied people that have similar struggles. They're struggling. It's not just people with disabilities. If you're on your feet and you are struggling in any way, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a CEO, vice president, president, we all are human. We all struggle, and we all need help. So if you're looking for anything that I could help serve you with, please call me. Also, if you're looking at somebody to give a speech and motivate your team or your company and kind of reground them or give them some tidbits of wisdom, reach out to me. Speaking is part of what I do, and I love helping and being there for you. So reach out the same way. Come to find me on almost any of social media. You could go to Facebook. You could go to LinkedIn. On Instagram, I am _Quadfather. You could go there and find me. Just Google me. I'm not hard to find, and I'm here to help. Thank you.
All right, we look forward to hearing your stories on how you're breaking barriers. And remember, everything good is on the other side of you breaking that barrier. Have a great day. We're out.